Wait till Valerie, wait till they're taking it and then take it at that time when it is flashing.
Down, Grandma.
Just get in there halfway.
Just do this. Just go Grandma, look down. That's all right. Everybody got it? No, mine still is flashing. Oh, come on, Janice. I'm losing batteries. My kids having a coronary now.
Do we need to charge your battery?
Mom got one. Never mind. She go. Wait there. Now. He doesn't like that. I have
26. My mother has 13. It's half as many. That's what mother. That's right. Mother's got 13 grandkids, and now she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's got 5 great grandsons. All 5 of them boys. Is that right?
We're in a picture taking from behind you.
I finally got my batteries charged here.
Oh, well, taking somebody else's side of me.
Oh, now you're the prettiest gal here. We can't leave you out. Who are all these fine folks you're talking with here?
Well, I'm his wife. Yeah, but
This is my mother.
That's his mom. Well, that's nice.
we're related. All of us here are related. He's Valerie's husband, Jack's oldest So
Let's see. If I read this slide, folks, I didn't read it. Didn't try to go. The oldest man here. We have one 75. What about 80? About 85? What about 90? 90, that's a good number.
That's 90.
What about 90?
Now ask him if he's lying about his age.
Now this one coming up, it says the oldest woman. Now nobody's going to want to give for that. No woman wants to tell her age. I don't know how old Helen is. I think she's 43. Do we have a woman here that's 70? What about 75? You know over that? What about 80?
Yeah,
What about 81? 82? 83? Anybody older than 83?
yeah, Mom is. 88. Anybody over 88?
Is that 98?
88.
Can you stand up, Atlanta? Okay, now it says here the one that traveled the furthest.
530 miles.
And we took a look at a map, and I think someone came from Minnesota. I think that may be the furthest. That's it.
Anybody come further than Minnesota?
I see, David, you came from Springfield, Illinois,
Yeah, I
right?
can't beat Minnesota.
Yeah, I think the Minnesota one.
Minnesota's probably.
Maybe they're not here though. There they are. I lose again.
Okay, the next one, most kids and grandkids together that are here, present. Where do we start?
One person that has the most kids and grandkids here.
And great-grandkids.
Oh, great thing.
And I don't think there's any contest. Would mothers stand up?
How many you got here? Glenn?
Well, I see he's left.
Okay, now the next one is the great grandkids that are here. Oh, that's all together. Okay. See, I'm confused. Why don't we have Larry, look at Larry's kids and all the kids and grandkids and all that. Let's see. Next, I guess I have Peg. All your kids and grandkids. That'd be half the crowd. I don't know who, Harold and Helen Thompson and Kay and all the rest of your family, why don't you all stand up? Now, some of y'all I don't know, so I may have to help. See, then my brother Charles and his family. Why don't y'all stand up? That's my older brother. Okay, now then, who we got left? Donna and Clyde, I'm sorry. Y'all stand up so that you know who you are. Yeah, all her kids, I'm sorry. Okay, and Chancey and 99 Bowlby and their family. Okay, who else? I don't, Boldens. Why don't y'all stand up? Casey and Loma's family. Why don't y'all? That's them, okay. Kearns. Yes. Okay. And we've got, Brennan.
Birthday, we was down there. Yeah, we were there.
Hilligoss. David Hilligoss and son. Almost got him.
I think we've got Fern in there, and Blanche too, for that matter. She's part of it, Hilligoss.
Okay, we had 2 or 3 that wanted to speak. I think David Hilligoss wanted to say a few words, so. Oh, just a minute. I'm ahead of myself. We wrote down, I didn't know what? Franklin's, we missed the Franklins, they said. Okay, y'all stand up. Sorry about that. I'm getting old and forgetful. But, okay, now did you forget something?
What's her last name? Joanne Marble. Joanne Marble.
Now then, I think David's going to come and give a little, he wants to do a little talk.
Thanks, Jack. I will keep it clean. I will keep it as clean as Chancey Bowlby would keep it. And in fact, he's the first one that I want to tell just a little bit of a story about. And the reason I'm going to tell it is because he sort of pulled one on me 5 years ago. In 1989, in March, I was in the Baxter Springs Cemetery, standing over my great-grandparents' graves, Martha Ann and Henry J. And this big car, it must have been a big old Mercury or a Lincoln or something, drove up. And, you know, they're on the last path of that cemetery on the east side. And that car drove up right in front of me. And this funny-looking old man sitting in the back seat rolled the window down. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you looking for somebody you think you know?" And I looked up at him, and of course, as all of you know, none of you in here wanted to claim that a guy that looks like this, that has no hair on his head, you look at the men in this room, look at all of them. I can't be related to any of you. And then look at the hair on my face. So it's no wonder Chancey was a little disturbed, and so he hollered at me, or no, I looked back at him and I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I found them, they're right here, the Hilligosses. These are my great-grandparents." And he looked at me and he said, "You one of Raymond's boys?" And I said, "You bet I am." And by then, I knew who I was talking to, even though it had been over 30 years since I'd seen him. And I walked over to the car and I said, "Chancey Bowlby?" I said, "I was at Jack Hilligoss's house just yesterday, my Uncle Jack. And he told me if I ran into you to tell you hello." So I said, "Hello, Chancey." And Chancey looked back at me and he said, "You tell Jack Hilligoss I think he's still a horse's." while ago, one of Blanche's own kids told me that I asked him, I said, well, now what did Chancey do for a living? And he said, gosh, he said, you know, I don't remember. I don't know if he did anything for a living. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, I think all he's done all his life is sit around and tell stories. But I've got one better on him. I tell stories and get paid for it. I'm a professional storyteller, and I just retired as a university professor up in Illinois. And I'm going to tell stories the rest of my life. I do over 50 concerts a year now in schools and churches all over the country. And I've already given Opal 3 of my recordings, and I have 3 more that'll be out in a couple of months. And I'm going to give copies to Blanche, and anybody else that wants to buy some can let me know. They're $10 a piece. Anyway, Blanche is the other one I want to mention for just a minute, and that is that I saw her that afternoon, that same, in fact, there was one other thing Jack Hilligoss told me about Chancey Bowlby. Now, you see, when I was a kid going to family reunions at Schiffendecker Park in Joplin, and the park in Webb City, and there was another park someplace that I can't remember where it was that we used to have reunions. Now, you know why we quit having family reunions 30 years ago? It's because religion has been so important in our family that it has split different families off away from each other several times. I mean, we have taken religion very seriously in this family, but that's another story. My Uncle Jack told me one time, I asked him, I said, how old is Chancey Bowlby? And he said, hell, I don't know. He said, he's been 100 for 50 years. But when I was a kid going to family reunions, no bigger than these kids right here, I thought Chancey Bowlby was the funniest man in the world. And he still has a sense of humor that it's no wonder he's 93 years old. Or 91? I think he lies about his age. He's been 150 years. So that same afternoon, I drove into Baxter and I was shooting pictures and videotape of my mother's house, which was a little brick to their 2 little red brick houses right up the street, just off Military Avenue, 5th and Park or something like that, 5th and Lincoln maybe. There are 2 little brick houses just alike, and my mother was in junior college in Fort Scott while her folks lived in that house, and my grandparents, Don and Nellie Sudsbury, he was the agent for the Frisco Railroad in those years, and right down the block, just a half a block on the corner, and I came through here on Thursday and I shot videotape of every one of these places again on Thursday, because my father's birthday was Thursday, 2 days ago. He would have been 80 years old, Raymond Hilligoss. And at any rate, I went on down and I shot pictures of the house on the corner right next to Blanche's house. And that's where my grandpa George Hilligoss lived when my dad was in high school in Baxter Springs and junior high. And my dad was on a football team. He graduated in 1931. That Baxter Springs, there's probably a picture of this football team on every wall and every bar in Baxter Springs. And that was a high school football team that did not lose a game during his sophomore, junior, and senior years. And their senior year, they were all in the same class. During their senior year, they were not scored upon. And my dad played right guard, and as Blanche will tell you, he was 5'6" and weighed almost 200 pounds, and you couldn't get around him in those days. At any rate, that's where my dad lived, and Grandpa and Grandma Hilligoss, and Grandpa Hilligoss's truck garage is still behind that house. Blanche's house is right next door. And then I drove another block and a half down a little slope, around a little curve, a little gradual curve that you have to make it because the road doesn't go anywhere else. And it comes right around, and I don't remember what street it is, Blanche, but the very next street. And you stop at that corner, and on the northwest corner is the house where Blanche was raised by Henry J. and Martha, my great-grandparents. 5th Street, yeah. I want to make an apology to everybody because I have the most wonderful picture, oval picture that was in my Grandpa Hilligoss's bedroom as long as I can remember, of Henry J. and Martha. And it was not their wedding picture, but it is a wonderful picture, and I will, if people have my address, if you want me to make copies of it. I have not tried to copy it. It's still in that old oval frame, but I will. I'll try to make copies of it if people want copies. But the funny thing about that picture is that when I was growing up as a kid, I looked at that picture and this man is standing next to this fine-looking woman. They were a fine-looking couple, Henry and Martha. And of course, she didn't die till she was in her 90s. 84, 1952. But when you look at this picture, it looks very traditional. It looks like a short woman and a tall man standing there next to each other. And I always thought that was the truth. Until finally, one time, I looked at that picture. I must have been about 10 or 12 years old, and I thought, there's something wrong with that picture because that woman doesn't look like she's standing up. And then I asked somebody, and they said, why no, she was practically 6 feet tall. Oh, she was tall anyway, and he was only about 5'2" or 3", and she was taller than he was, and he was afraid of her. And any of you who knew her, in fact, I want to ask about families. Just raise your hands. I want to know anybody in here who in one way or another is a descendant of Henry J. and Martha Hilligoss. Raise your hands. I'm not the only Hilligoss here. I know that. I knew that. Anyway.
I believe Mother wanted to say something. Do you want to say something?
I'm really proud of my family. I have a pretty big family, and it seems to me like now then, with these great-grandkids coming on, it's hard telling where I could go. I tell you, I already have 20, in November, I'll have 26 great-grands. And just think, oh my, the Royal Books record won't mean nothing. But I praise the Lord for all my family. I love them. I know they love me. And we have been a close family. And I think, when Opal first, I made a remark one time. I said, I wish that some way their family, Larry Harden's family, had a big reunion. And I said, I would love to have a family reunion. And I didn't think any more about it, didn't say anything about it, but Opal heard me say it. And I've learned in the last few years that if I want something, I better not say I do because I sometimes get it. But anyway, I thank all of you for coming. And I know it's been a struggle, probably for some of you. And some of you have come a long way. Some of you have maybe had to sacrifice to come. The only regret that I have is that my sister in Edmond, Oklahoma, couldn't be with us. My brother Chancey, he's 90, and I'm not going to tell how old I am, but my sister's 87. I'm the baby. So just draw your own conclusions. But I was so in hopes that she'd be here because I don't believe we've ever been together in one place. And I was so disappointed, but due to ill health, she couldn't come. So I really would like for her to be here. I'm not very long-winded. I have just one more thing to say. This is to my children. You think that I am growing old. Well, you are mistaken. Age isn't years alone. It's how you live and love and learn. The Lord has been so good to me in words that I can't utter. Oh, no, children, I'm not getting old. I'm just getting better.
We love you, Mama.